Hey, Sean, thanks for joining me tonight. I thought it'd be fun to sit down and discuss the Buffalo Bills offense for 2024. You and I have been chatting about this for the last few weeks, and finally we have some time to get together tonight and talk about this and why the national media is missing the mark with this team. Not all of them, but many saying the Bills Mafia better get ready for disappointment. And yesterday, I saw the Buffalo Shout podcast have some guy saying the Bills suck. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't know what confusion is. Did people not learn anything in 2022 when the Chiefs traded away Tyreek Hill, Sean? They went on to win a Super
No,
Bowl. They went on to
they
win a
did.
Super Bowl. I mean, did they not learn?
Well, they might just pretend that they don't because it's Buffalo, so they like to try to make us miserable as
Like they,
fans.
like they hate on us, don't they? I
Mhm.
know, I get it. The media, like that's their thing these days. Like, let's trigger people. Find a way to trigger people. Get them over here because get the views. Yeah, you're going to trigger Bills Mafia by saying, the Bills suck this year. They're gonna suck. I mean, come on now.
That's what makes people mad. I think. Well, that's what makes me angry. Is well, not really angry, but that's why I get annoyed with the media and stuff. Is because they get paid a good amount of money to talk and make shows, and they don't do research or try to learn about the teams they're talking about. So that's for me.
Yeah, and I think a lot of folks get triggered by that. I mean, again, I'll go back to 2022. Mahomes pretty much had, I think he had 10 fewer attempts, passing attempts, that he did the year before. And basically, Kelsey picked up 20 more targets. I think Tyreek Hill had like 159 targets. So they had to absorb that, right? Who was going to absorb those targets? Kelsey picked up 20 more, but they picked up Juju Smith-Schuster. Guy had 101 targets that year. MVS had 81. And Jerick McKinnon out of the backfield, 71 targets. It's going to be a similar thing for the Bills,
Yeah.
Sean. And that's what confuses me is like, do they not understand, Josh Allen will distribute the ball? Do they not understand that Joe Brady's had a full off season to fine tune his playbook? And then I hear this garbage, Sean. Josh Allen can't elevate guys around him. What do you think of that statement?
Well, people look at guys like Sherfield and they're like, oh, well, he didn't make Sherfield that much better. But then when you look at guys like Cole Beasley and John Brown, and even Stephon Diggs, as much as I love Stephon Diggs, I still do. People got to remember he was never a wide receiver one. He was always second fiddle to Adam Thielen every year. There was never a time where anyone thought of Diggs as an equal or above to Adam Thielen. And then he went to Buffalo, and then, like they both say, they both worked together and they helped each other become even better players. But he's proven to elevate good talent, and Sherfield, like I said last year, everyone expected Sherfield and Hardy to get 80 receptions and like 1,000 yards for some reason. I'm just like, they're sixth and seventh options on the team. They're never going to be anything, extraordinary. You're not going to make a playbook or a handful of plays for guys like Hardy. They're just afterthought people that they might get a catch or two in a game, and that's what it was. And everybody seemed surprised, but guys like that, sure, they might not be a good example of being elevated by a quarterback, but the key players that Allen has played with that were supposed to be the best players at the time on the team, he made them better. John Brown never had a 1,000-yard season. Cole Beasley, great, one of the best slot receivers in the league at the time. With Allen, was never the best. He was always good, but he took a next step up with Allen. So I think it's just people, just trying to rile other people up.
I'm glad you brought up John Brown. So he did actually have 1,000-yard receiving year in 2015. But he comes to Buffalo in 2019 and he has his best ever with 1,060 yards. I think he had like 1,015, 1,010. But and then Cole Beasley comes to Buffalo, 3 consecutive 100+ targets, and has his best years with Josh Allen.
Yeah.
I mean, Beasley was always, he played for Dallas before that, and we knew of him, But man, he got national notoriety when he came to Buffalo. He was just fantastic. If the Bills needed a play, they were going to look his way. He had great hands, small guy, great route runner, quick, and he'd make that play when you needed it. So listen to this. Steph Diggs had 160 targets last year. Gabe Davis had 81 targets. So between the two of them, 241 targets. Everyone saying, who the Bills going to throw to? Look, Curtis Samuel. His last 2 years with a lesser quarterback, he had 91 and 92 targets. So let's assume he's at least going to get 90, but I'm going to say he's going to get a bump here with Josh Allen and get 100. And after I say this, you can just agree with me or disagree, but in the end, it's going to be similar. So Shakir, he had 45 targets. You can expect him to go, and I'm going to be on the low side. I believe Shakir at least gets 80 targets, at least, and it could be more. Right? I think I think he's he's the most experienced with Josh. Every year he's been ascending. I expect him to jump up another 35 targets. Then you got Keen Coleman. So this is the wild card, right, Sean? So what I did here is I looked at in 2023. I looked at there was 5 second-round wide receivers taken. Those wide receivers were Jonathan Mingo, taken by Carolina, Rashee Rice, taken by KC, Jaden Reed by Green Bay, Marvin Mims taken by Denver, Cedric Tillman taken by Cleveland. I took all 5 of them and I averaged their targets. The average targets for all 5 of them were 71.6. Some of them have much more. The last 2 that I mentioned, Marvin Mims and Tillman, really took that average down. But let's assume at least Coleman gets 71.6. Let's round it to 72, right?
Yeah.
And then let's give Kincaid a bump. I know, he had 91 targets. Yeah. Let's give him a bump of 10, 101. He could even be more. That's on the low side.
Yeah, so I think Knox will have more too, Mike, just because he was injured a lot. So he'll, by default, just have more as well. So,
yeah, I agree. And just those 4 guys I mentioned, Samuel, Shakir, Coleman, and Kincaid, they're going to soak up roughly about 217 of the 241 targets. So now we have 24 targets left to distribute. So sprinkle that in with James Cook, Dawson Knox, Matt Collins, Chase Claypool, Ray Davis, whoever makes that wide receiver core, and then, of course, our backs out of the backfield. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. And these guys aren't bums, Sean. People think, like, we have no one to throw to. Curtis Samuel's been in the league for quite some time. Khalil Shakir's been ascending, like we said. Coleman's that wild card, but I don't know who's going to make the rest of the wide receiver group. But we've got some guys, some pieces there who've been around for a while. What's your thoughts on the pieces that we've added? Chase Claypool, Matt Collins. Again, I don't know if they're going to make it, but there's some MBS. How can I forget MBS? What's your thoughts on that?
They got a lot of proving to do, which could be good because then they know that they have to earn their keep and work hard to prove, hey, Buffalo was right to try me and give me a chance and to give me more opportunity. Because I can't remember I think Buffalo Plus might have said it today. I know I don't listen to them often, but I did listen to them, and I think they said that Samuel's the most accomplished wide receiver we have, but in all reality, it's Chase Claypool as far as stats go. He's had the best seasons out of any of the receivers we have. So if a guy like Claypool can, actually understand, like, hey, this is my last opportunity. I kind of pissed it away the last couple of years. I got a great quarterback now and a good team. I can make a name for myself here. If he could step up and be what he was in his rookie year or his sophomore year, that can change the dynamic of the team, more than people can expect. Because if he's that good, and then you expect Shakir and Kincaid to keep taking the climb like they did last year and then the year before with Shakir, that's 3 people right there that are very solid, and you're not even getting into maybe Coleman and maybe Samuel yet, and not even counting James Cook or Dawson Knox. So we definitely have people that can make plays. I'm not gonna come up right off the bat and say, oh, they're definitely gonna be a great core, but I'm excited that they could be. And then, like I said, I didn't even mention MVS, and he can be good. Maybe sometimes a change of scenery is all you need. Because, he maybe had a couple bad seasons in Kansas City where he dropped the ball in the regular season. Maybe if it comes to Buffalo, things could change, just by chance. And then he's not dropping the ball anymore and becomes a big playmaker. So it's exciting because there's so much unknown to it.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned that James Cook, he had 54 targets last year. He can take a bump, right? We,
Oh, yeah.
we drafted him because of his receiving skills, and he's shown flashes of good and some flashes of bad, right? He had some bad drops last year, but I expect him to fix those issues. And then we draft Ray Davis, who everyone's talking highly of. He actually very good receiver out of the backfield. And we have Ty Johnson. Now, I don't expect them to get a lot of targets, but I'm just saying these are just additional people to distribute the ball. And Joe Brady, having an off season to fine tune his playbook. One concern I know you have is the ratio of runs to passes.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people talking about the Bills are going to run the ball a lot more, which could be the case. We were very successful when we ran the ball last year, but I'd like to hear from you what you're looking for that distribution to be between run and pass.
Yeah, so I did a little note taking just to prove this point and just talk about it a little bit. I did the top 10 offenses from last year, and then I did the top 10 run percentage teams. So let's go to the top 10 offenses first. You got the Dolphins, the 49ers, the Detroit Lions, the Bills, the Cowboys, the Ravens, the Rams, Eagles, Chiefs, and Vikings. I got the run-pass ratios, but I'll do that afterwards. The top 10 run percentage teams were the Ravens, the Bears, the Niners, the Falcons, the Steelers, the Eagles, the Titans, the Bills, Broncos, and the Giants at 10. Now, 4 of those 10 are in the top 10 offenses. But when you look at those 4 teams, what do 3 of those 4 teams have in common? The Ravens, the Niners, the Eagles, and the Bills.
Good quarterbacks?
Good, but 3 of the 4 of them are mobile and they run the ball a lot. Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, and Josh Allen. Now, Brock Purdy doesn't run the ball often, but they run the ball with Deebo Samuel and their wide receivers, and they have Christian McCaffrey. So when you look at that information, and you look at the other teams like the Bears, the Falcons, the Steelers, the Titans, the Broncos, and the Giants, those teams don't have good quarterbacks, and they have to rely on the run. But when you look at the other teams in the top 10, they all have good quarterbacks, and they pass the ball a lot. So now, so when I was looking at that, because I said it earlier, I don't know if we were live or not, but most contending teams aren't as balanced as people want to think because they rely on the pass. And the teams that we just saw that are top 10 in the run percentage, 3 out of 4 of them are only up there because their quarterbacks are mobile. So when I look at those teams, I kind of am like, well, they run a lot already with quarterbacks, so I'm not really too sure that we need to run more than we did last year, and I'll get into the percentages. The Dolphins, they ran the ball 44% of the time. There's point decimals, but I'm just going to say 44%. And they passed the ball, what was it, 55 point something percent. So Tua isn't a mobile quarterback, and they ran the ball quite often, but they had Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, so they wanted to use the pass more. The Niners were literally 50-50 run pass. The Lions were 45 run, 54 pass. Again, there's decimals, but I'm just going to run through them. The Bills were 46% run and 53 pass, which people think we're going to run more, but I wouldn't even do more than that. I think that is at most what I want to be as far as run pass balance goes. I'd like to be a little bit higher pass. Cowboys were 43 run, 56 pass. Ravens were 52-47. Rams were 45-55 pass. Eagles were 47 run, 52 pass. Chiefs were 39 run, 60 pass. And Vikings were top 10 at 38 run and 61 pass. So a lot of those teams were in the high 50s, low 60s, and they still had good run games, but they relied on the pass because they have good quarterback and good receivers. So we're all assuming that we're going to run the ball even more than we did when we basically ran the ball almost half the time anyway. And we still have to account that Josh Allen's going to take off and run the football. So, again, when you look at the top 10 run percentage teams, there's, Allen and Lamar, and Hurts is a top 10 quarterback, and, I guess you could argue Purdy, but the reason that these teams are probably on there is because their quarterback runs often, not because running the ball wins you football games in the NFL in 2024. They win you playoff games. It's good to run the ball, but as you see, most of these good teams in the top 10 offense, they rely heavily on the pass. So maybe assuming we're going to run the ball more isn't really the plan. Maybe we're going to run the ball just as much or a little bit less, and then focus on screens and quick passes, get the ball in the playmaker's hands. Because if you got a top 3 quarterback, what are you gonna run the ball 60% of the time for, 55% of the time? You know what I mean? So it's that was just my thought, and I know it took a little bit extra time to run through everybody's percentages, but I just found it interesting that only 4 of the top 10 run percentage teams were in the top 10 of offense, and 3 of those 4 were mobile quarterbacks. So I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So, like you said, we ran the ball quite a bit. What, 43%? I think you said last time.
It was 46.9.
46, so almost 50-50. I can't see us going more than that. And you said the Chiefs ran almost like 40% of the time, 60% pass.
Yeah, they're 39.6 run and 60.4 pass.
So I think that's kind of where you'd want the Bills to be. So I like what they did last year. I agree with you fully. And I'll say this. So Josh Allen, I think he had his worst year for interceptions. His interception percentage was 3.1% of the time he was intercepted for, the number of targets that he put up. So if he threw 100 targets, he was intercepted 3.1. I know you can't have a percentage there, but that's what it averages out. And I'm going to tell you, Sean, I'm going to put it out there right now, that with the distribution that he's going to have to do, to be successful, with Joe Brady being probably a little more conservative, but they'll take their shots over the top when the time is right. I say Josh Allen has his best year as far as interception percentage, his lowest from the time he was a rookie. I think it's just going to happen. The Chiefs, they put out the blueprint in 2022, and there's other teams that have won without highly talented wide receivers.
Right.
I guess the only other concern, Sean, is, there was a slight change on that offensive line, which you've studied that a lot last year. That offensive line was great. And then we both didn't want to lose Mitch Morse this year. We wanted to draft, like we did, a Van Pran Granger and have Mitch teach him, right? Have him behind. That doesn't happen. We get rid of Ryan Bates. So now we have to slide over Connor McGovern to center and David Edwards at left guard. Now, whether that stays the same after camp, that's going to be one of the interesting battles that I'm looking for. Because, if Van Pran Granger has a great camp, maybe he earns the starting job at center. Me personally, I don't think that's going to happen initially. I also think they're looking at him to play left guard, to be honest. I think they're looking to maybe throw him at left guard if Dave Edwards struggles. So
it's interesting. And, today Dawkins went on again with Colin Cowherd, and they had their conversation. They do that every once in a while, it seems. So I encourage everyone to go watch that. It's about a 20-minute video. But I mentioned it last year, and not to say, I was the first one to bring it up, but could have been that he's never played with the same left guard in his entire career, and both McGovern and Dawkins had their best years as pros next to each other. So I don't care if Cromer's a coach and I'm not, just by logic, it doesn't make sense to ruin that. And Dawkins went back on Colin Cowherd and said, in my 8 years of playing football at left tackle, I never played next to the same guy ever in my time in Buffalo. And it's a big, and he said it's a, I'm not going to spoil it for everyone, but basically he was saying it's a big deal. And it's hard to always have moving pieces. He's like, we never had the same right tackle. We're always shifting right guard, right tackle. So, because basically Colin Cowherd was like, I was always hard on McDermott for not being able to rebuild an O-line. And now after like 5 years, he finally did it. Besides you, they finally brought the pieces in. But and he's like, the criticism was all fair, but you're always switching people around and it makes it difficult. So he's telling you himself, basically, in other words, I would rather be next to the same guy and keep performing than a carousel. But we had, people always tell me, you're not Cromer. He knows more than you do, so I'm going to listen to him. But Dawkins himself is saying it's not better to always have carousels going. So definitely go watch that. And real quick, also with talking about the Chiefs, remember how bad their receiving core was last year? They still threw the ball 60% of the time.
Yeah.
With one of the worst receiving cores in the league. So if we think Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes are comparable as far as talent goes, not resume, we should want to be like that. Because, again, like I mentioned on the last show we did, we're kind of built similar to the Chiefs. So we both have great quarterbacks, great O-lines, great tight ends, and receiving cores that need a little bit of proving themselves. So I think that'd be perfect. They're 60.4% and 39.6. If you can go 60-40 or 58, 42, I'd take that because I think it can still be effective.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I like that we have options on the O line. Right, we could start the year with Connor McGovern in center, and again, I feel like he was prepped for this. When they brought him on, Cromer was talking to them about when Mitch would leave eventually, he would be the guy. But we have options now. If David Edwards struggles and maybe Connor McGovern is just not that guy at center, we can swing him back over to the left guard and bring in our rookie. I mean, we do have Will Clapp. I hope not to see Will Clapp at center. But you've always said if we could just change one piece of that offensive line, it's better than changing two pieces. And like you said, with Deion Dawkins saying that it's always nice to have that chemistry that you built with that guy next to you and have that. And I think you said, what did you say? He's never had that before?
He's never played next to the same guy back-to-back seasons in his
That's
NFL
absolutely
career.
Crazy. And that just says a lot about how good he is, that he's able to be an elite left tackle in that situation. The other thing too, Sean, is that not every team, even the Chiefs, there are areas again on their offensive line on all teams that usually there's a weakness.
Yeah.
And when there is that weakness, usually it requires, if you're going to be successful, a quarterback that can get out of trouble.
Sure.
Pat Mahomes does it. We saw it last year. Guess who else does it and is very, very damn good at it? That is JA-17, Josh Allen. So he can make an offensive line look much better than they are. But again, we'll see. I like our options. We'll see how that plays out. That, to me, is the biggest concern versus the wide receivers. I'm not concerned about that at all. We're going to distribute the ball and be very successful. So looking forward to that. So national media, get your facts straight, man. Come on. Get your facts straight. Stop trying to trigger people. And watch out for the Buffalo Bills. They're still the favorite to win the AFC East. Favorites to win the AFC East, Sean. That says a lot. So let's go. Go Bills.
Go Bills.